Hello, everyone. This is our first podcast that we're going to share with you. The idea here is to bring you the information that you've wanted to know about, the information that is coming from a real estate perspective, from about life. We have going to have some great guests, and it's Frank Leo here. Sam DeCaro, my director of operations, is here to help out. And today, I think the idea is to try and give you a little bit of insight of where I came from, and hopefully you'll get to know us a little bit better and be engaged in this wonderful endeavor.
Yeah. I think the objective here is to establish why anybody should want to listen to what you have to say, right?
I thought that was a given, right?
Well, I mean, there's no question that you've got some brand recognition out there, and that you've sold a few houses, but
Few,
you know what? Yeah, exactly.
few thousand?
Well, there's the point here is, who are you, and what did you where did you come from, and why would anybody want to listen to what you have to say? And so that's actually where.
All right, you're gonna put me on the spot. I got you.
Yeah,
All right,
that's where we can start with here.
Go at
is,
it. Go at it.
One of the things that I can share is that quite often people say you're not at all what they would expect you to be like after meeting you, and I think there's oftentimes you automatically assume that just because somebody is successful that they're a pompous jerk, but the feedback is that you're very human, and so I think that has to do with what I believe you have been able to unlock the secret to success, and it's the whole basis for how you operate and how you've instilled all of us in terms of how we should operate. And so why don't you share a bit about that?
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, absolutely. The secret to success, I think, for anyone is to really focus on solving other people's problems. And the more people you can help, overcome their issues, their concerns, then, your success is inevitable. The other principle that I think has really led me from a perspective, and really focus on what my dad said. And my dad had a great saying, say, do good and forget about it. Do bad and remember it. And, if we live our lives just doing good and not having to regret anything, then, life becomes just becomes better overall. And so you don't have to worry about what you've done because you're always doing things the right way and doing your best for everyone else.
But you've positioned it for us in a way where it becomes a lot easier to operate in this business if your approach to dealing with people is helping them versus selling them.
100%. Yeah.
Right. And you've said if it just so happens that you're successful at helping other people achieve their goals, then by default yours are met. Let's not get it twisted. I mean, the objective for people in our industry is to do business, to do sales or whatever. But this is the way to do it.
Well, I started in this business in 89 when the market crashed. And for those of you that don't know, 89 market was rocking. Everything was great. And all of a sudden it crashed, but it crashed for 5.5 years. And I was new in the business.
How old were you when you?
No, I'm not going to tell you my age, but I just came out of school. So, I got straight into real estate. And
I kind of picture you
tough.
like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street when the market crashes.
Yeah, well,
go ahead.
I don't know if it was like that, but I remember that
you show up at your office and it just said closed.
That was after, yeah, absolutely. I showed up. Offices were closing all the time. The office I had originally joined, one day it says out of business because they couldn't keep the doors open, and that happened all over the place. But more importantly, I went to an office. We started working. But one thing that really was hard, and I'm going to share this story with you because this really was something that I think led me to where I am today. I met a wonderful family, and they were in a situation where they were in a tough spot. The market was down, and I was new in the business. I mean, I hadn't made a lot of money. I had to make sales, and they were telling me that, listen, I won't be able to afford my home. The interest, cost is high. My job is not there. I got issues, and I saw this family with 4 kids wanting to sell their property, and there was nowhere for them to go. I knew it was out there. They couldn't afford that either. I looked at their home. I said, listen, you close this door, add a side entrance, rent out your basement, stick around, stay here, don't go anywhere. And that's something that, was hard for me to do because I needed to make money, but it was the right thing to do. I got a frog in my, an itch in my throat. Oh boy. Wow. Ready? And that was hard for me to do because, of course, I needed to make money. But, that family over there, if they would have sold that property, would have been, unable to buy another property. They would have been in the streets. And I said, no, stay where you are. What's interesting is, like 8 years later or so, I get a call from this gentleman. He goes, Frank, we're going to sell our home. And I want you to know that when I go to prayer, I have 2 agents that are good friends of mine, and I'm there with them all the time. But I'm coming to you because at that time, I would have lost my home if it wasn't for you. Makes it all worthwhile, when you do the right thing. And that's where it started.
When we said we were going to peel back the onion a little bit and get to know who you are, I wasn't expecting 5 minutes into the podcast for you to get emotional, but
huge,
yeah.
Huge.
And so, couldn't have been a better start. And so this experience that you had, I guess, formed the foundation for how you operate your organization, in the sense that that person was in a bad predicament, and as badly as you needed money and they were ready to sell, knowing that that wasn't what was best for them, is why you advised them not to do it, even if it wasn't best for you at that time monetarily. But what it translated into was, if I'm not mistaken, several referrals and business that came down the road. And so it's that same philosophy that you apply to, everybody that you're dealing with, knowing that, as you mentioned, if you do good and forget about it, and do bad and remember it, you're always going to be in a better position.
You sleep at night. I mean, it's a job, it's a business, but it's people and families, and we're here to help. And we do have such an important responsibility because it's such a huge, expense or investment that probably one of the largest ones people do in their lives. So if you help them, you're going to really make their families better off. And if you don't, you hurt them. How can you sleep at night? I love my sleep, so I just rather do that.
So you mentioned some of the challenges there of the market when you first got into the business, and so that was what you started in '89.
Well, I had my license in '88. '89 was when I started, and the market crashed. How lucky was I there, right? So it's good.
So yeah. So the market crashed, and you were just getting started in your career, and
the story was that actually, if I go back a little bit, when I was in university, I was looking what I wanted to do with my business, and it was at that time the stockbroking and real estate were my 2 options because those are the ones where you can get into and really make a difference. But it was based on what you do and not what someone else tells you. If you're going to get promoted or not. And so I was in the middle of my decision, This was October of 1987, and Black Monday hit. The stock market took a huge dive, and
Real estate it is.
real estate it is was the answer. So that's how I got into real estate. Got my license in '88, and so was ready to go in '89 because I was still finishing off my university, and I was doing it part time. And then the market, coincidentally, as soon as I was ready to go, crashed in real estate. So congratulations, here we go.
Okay, so you've shared some like staggering numbers from that market, and I kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit on that. But what I was going to say here is it's interesting that you mentioned that there was a shift in the market, because obviously we're experiencing a bit of a shift in the market at this current time. Now, we have the benefit of masterminding with some of the top organizations across North America. And what's been shared with us is that, the majority of the highest performing teams since that adjustment in the market were suffering in terms of production. I think they were down anywhere from 25 to 50% is what we were hearing on average. And that our organization was one of, I believe, 4 or 5 that were significantly up in terms of production. And so I get questions all the time in terms of what do we attribute that to? And I personally believe that it's the preparation that we receive from you in terms of training on how to handle these changes in the market and the shift in the environment, because the reality is most people that have been in the business have only experienced that upward trajectory. And so, having the benefit of you as a mentor, as a trainer, and giving us the insights required to know what's coming down the road, I believe has positioned us to be in a better spot to provide a better counsel to our clients. And so, why don't you share a little bit about what that environment was like, and then maybe we can touch on some of the similarities.
For sure. I mean, there's no question about it. This is back to normal for me. This is what I started with. It took 5.5 years of living this. So, what you just said is if you have a navigation system, you'll get to your destination easier. Of course, that's what I provided. But I mean, just to give some people some insights, back in the early 90s, for every 18 listings, 17 expired, 1 sold. And so this was our environment. People weren't selling because they weren't keeping up with the changes. They were resisting the results of the market. So they always wanted more money than the market would bear. And so they typically would put their home on the market 3 and 4 times of 3-month cycles, and they would adjust, and they would be chasing that market. And finally they said, I can't keep anymore. What's it going to take? And then they would sell at that point. And so that resistance to change actually cost them money, because when you're chasing the market down, it's going lower and lower. You have to lead in this market. You have to know where the market's going. And if it's going down, sell sooner, not later. And that's what it's all about. But many people didn't see that as an option.
Can you say like some people experienced drops in values of like crazy percentages?
Well, I had some young people not too long ago, says, real estate never goes down. And I laugh because from 1988 to 1995, depending on where you were in the Toronto and GTA area, the actual price of properties went down anywhere from 40 to 60%, depending on where you lived. So this is not theoretical. That happened.
Right. So
it can happen. It hasn't happened yet. Could it happen? Yes. There's a lot of factors involved. Government policy is a big one. Governments get involved. Sometimes they help. More often than not, they cause them more problems, but we'll see what happens next.
Okay, so you said the values went down for 5.5 years. Now, obviously, they didn't shoot back up, so it took another equal amount of time to get back to where they were?
The calculations
so that cycle was...
Yeah. If you bought in 89, it took you 13 years to get to zero, to back where you were.
Oh.
13 years. And so that's a long time not to make any money on your property. And so the speculators got hurt, but the people who, lived through it, I mean, they got their money back. So long-term real estate's a great investment. But if you were trying to, sell in between there, you would be taking a big loss.
Ouch. Okay, so no doubt a difficult environment to be in as a consumer. I'd imagine a very challenging environment for a realtor, for somebody working in that industry. Was there a significant decline in
Yes.
agent population?
Similar to what we have now, of course, smaller numbers. Everybody was getting into real estate up until 88, 89. And in 89, we had 28,000 realtors on the Toronto Real Estate Board. And in 1995, the board actually had increased and got more areas into the board, but the number of agents reduced to less than 50% at 14,000. So, yeah, a lot of people left the business. And as is happening now, the cost of being in the business is quite high. And, a lot of people who are in the business came in with the wrong mindset. Easy money was kind of the idea that they were looking at. And it's really not that. This is a big decision in people's lives. And so if you're not really, focused on helping people and trying to find an easy way to make some money, this is not the business for you, 100%.
Right. Okay, and so, what are some of the similarities that you would see in the current market environment from, that one that you had experienced way back when?
Well, I think denial, is the biggest word I can use. People aren't facing the real facts, and your monthly costs are going up when you renew your mortgage, and you have to renew your mortgage, so you can't avoid that.
So denial, right? It's I'm just thinking of a an example or analogy to paint that picture. Like if somebody had an illness, pretending it wasn't there wouldn't help them get healthy.
And exactly. You have to face it. I mean, life is going to throw some bumps in your way, and if you close your eyes and pretend they don't exist, they're still there. So you have to face them head on and find out what the best course of action is, the one that's going to be the least invasive to your life, your lifestyle, and that you can, bounce back from. But if you deny it, it's only going to get worse.
Right. And so looking at the current market environment, I think people are comparing it to the previous market, which wasn't a real market. I think we're more so in a realistic environment.
Well, it was a real market. I mean, the market was real. That's what was happening. We had a shortage of supply. We had a huge demand, and people were fighting for properties, and they were jumping in because they felt they were going to miss out if they didn't buy right away. And that was the market. It wasn't.
So it was fueled by panic.
It was fueled by panic, lack of supply, and irrational, financial fundamentals, because it was not sustainable for a long period of time. People got excited. It happens in different things. Back tulips, and I forgot what year it was. They were buying tulips as investments, and of course that didn't go too well. Bitcoin had some issues. Not Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. It wasn't that. People bought that and they lost money. So
I remember we had a listing that had I think it was 82 offers on it, and when we were leaving it, you said to me, "This is the beginning of the end." Right? This is not. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And you said, "When people start making decisions void of logic, it's not sustainable, and so this can't last."
Exactly.
Right.
But yes, that property over there, they were willing to sell for a lot less, and we got them about $300,000 more than they were anticipating.
Oh, no doubt they were extremely happy and still are.
Yeah, we broke some records, and that's because we did things to protect our clients, and that's some of the things that people weren't doing. One of the interesting things is people think that they're losing money now, and because the prices came down, and I remember how many people lost so much more money when the market was hot. And what I mean by that is we all know people that said, "Hey, I sold my property in one day to the first person, and they're telling me and all proud that I sold my home. And I said, I am so sorry because, just like that person who was willing to sell and we got 82 offers, they made an extra 300,000. If someone sells to the first person and no one else knew the property was sale in a market that's hot, when they're selling, they have lost literally in our market hundreds of thousands of dollars. They just don't know it. When they find out? When they had to go buy a property and realize how much money that they have to pay, and then they were in trouble. So people don't always lose money when the market goes down. They lose money when they don't do things that should be done properly, even in an up market.
Yeah, arguably, people are looking to capitalize on their biggest investment, and that's the time to do it when it's good. And then not doing it properly when you stand to gain the most out of it means you're actually losing.
One of the stats people don't realize, and not to throw them out, because this is interesting. I was surprised. Last year there were 73,000 realtors on our board, the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, and that's a lot of agents in our market. But what was really interesting is this: 35,710 agents last year sold 0 properties. And you're looking at making the biggest decision of your life, and someone doesn't have the experience and know what to do, how to coordinate the marketing of the property or any marketing at all, how to make sure that you sell and buy and move in the same date. I feel bad for those agents, but listen, this is my largest investment. You got to do your research. You got to make sure, because no one's going to say, hey, I have no experience, I don't know what I'm doing. So, a lot of the people got in trouble because they made a fundamental decision on not having the right person for their situation help them.
Yeah, I guess the idea is that in that market, theoretically, houses were selling themselves. The only question is,
It's not a question,
certainty,
it's a reality. Yeah.
The only certainty is, were they getting as much as they could have for that property if they didn't do all that was required to identify the ideal buyer?
We know the answer to that, and many people are kicking themselves today.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so we've got some similarities in terms of the market. Let's look at the previous market, and we'll call it a market of urgency. We know that buyers were fueled by panic. They were rushing in due to the concern that if I don't buy now, I'll have to pay more for less later.
Seller's market, right? Urgency, yes,
right.
Got it.
Now we're in a different environment. We know that interest rates have changed the game. The sentiment, whether from buyer or seller, has changed. And so is it safe to say that this is very much a market of uncertainty, where people are a little bit hesitant because they don't know where things are going and whether it's better to do something sooner than later? Because I think theoretically before, whether you were a buyer or seller, if you wanted to dance, you knew what song was playing.
Yeah, you knew that was going up. Uncertainty is definitely in the air, but I think it's denial as well. So is it uncertainty or is it denial, or is it both? And that's the question. So we see the trend where it's going. If there's more homes for sale and less homes selling, there's going to be more inventory, and more inventory is going to lead to more selection for buyers and more downward pressure on prices. So that's where we're at. The question is what's going to go forward, in 3 months and 6 months. That's up for, some speculation, of course, is what's the government going to do? Interest rates. I don't think they have as much flexibility as people would hope for, because it's not enough what they've done. But we are a world economy, and if we lower our rates too much off of what the other economies that we deal with, like the U.S., then we're not going to be able to be competitive. So we cannot have interest rates with that much of a differential. Otherwise, we're financially going to be struggling with our imports and our exports. It's going to be a problem. So, these are things that have to be taken into consideration.
Okay, so you were saying you think it's a combination of uncertainty and denial. I think that would be a fair assessment, because there is not a single person, I believe, on the planet who's in the near future planning on doing something that would wait if they knew definitively that they would be worse off by doing so.
That's right.
Right. So I think there's a lot of that hesitation, and from our perspective in terms of dealing with the public, I think that's why it's so critical for us to be able to establish that trust before being able to even think about articulating value and how we can help them, because we have to overcome that
Yeah.
that skepticism. Or
You got to look at all the variables and make your best, decision based on the facts that you have now, and also how much leeway you have. So if you have more ability to withstand, corrections and adjustments and fluctuations, then you maybe have more time to test what's going to happen. But if you're very tight and you don't have much, wiggle room to survive any negative occurrences, then you may want to, jump on what is going to be best for you now, so that you don't get caught in that trap where you have to do something that you don't want to do.
Okay. Recent announcement. Another quarter point drop on interest rates. Are we good now? Are we okay?
Well, we're going in the right direction. I do not think we're good, because a quarter point is nowhere near what we need to have. To just put it in perspective, on $1 million mortgage, and many people have a mortgage that's maybe not that size, maybe close to it.
Yeah.
All right, it's $144. It's $5,800, or take away $144. It's a help, but it's not a big enough help, I think, to get people out of the problems that they're going to have on a monthly basis. So, no, we need more help. We need more, a more fundamental help, because when we take away that spending money that each family has, it's not just them that they're hurting, but if they're not spending it in the economy, it's hurting the whole economy. It's going to be a cyclical, or a cyclone of problems for everyone.
Yeah. Because I'm trying to pay attention to the propaganda now. It seems like a lot of people are jumping on that. The end is near. It's it's a change that's happening, and so good times are ahead because of this adjustment. I agree with you. I don't think it's
Always
enough.
follow the source. If it's in people's best interest to say that, then they may say that. I just care about families not getting into trouble. I see so many people who have, refinanced their homes. They have higher mortgages. They can't afford to pay them, and they're getting into trouble. And I don't want that to be something that hurts them.
So, if we're wrapping up and we're coming, full circle, and we go back to what we discussed at the beginning of this, where, you were visibly emotional about taking yourself back to the experience that you had in the previous market. Obviously, you spent your days and nights talking to homeowners, consumers that were in a difficult spot. And that experience formed the foundation for how you deal with people in general, from that but truly from that perspective of looking at helping them first, putting them, before you. And I think that you can't ignore that, 5.5 years of seeing people struggling, and that has now, like I said, formed the foundation for how you operate our organization. And I think it's what's positioned us at this time better in being able to help people. Yeah. Any last words of wisdom for agents out there, or even the consumer?
Well, for us, we keep moving forward and helping people. We have not changed what we are doing. We're doing more of what's needed, because this is a time where people need more help, and that's what we're doing. I think agents have to understand the needs of the clients and really work towards what's best for the clients and figure it out and give them the options that they need to move forward. It's not about sales. It's not about transactions. It's about people's lives and how you can be a blessing to them as opposed to just, how you can make another sale. That's the only way to work long term.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of things really resonate with me when you speak. And one thing that just kind of popped in as you were speaking right there was a while back. It was a member of the team that was referring to somebody as a buyer or seller, and you corrected them. You said, "We don't deal with buyers or sellers. We deal with people.
Yeah.
We deal with people that are looking to make a move. It's not a transaction. This is, a life event for them." And when you look at the big picture, I think they say that, moving is the second most stressful life event next to the death of a loved one. And so you've really embodied that mindset as far as the approach.
100%. People need to have, the straight, honest facts before they make a decision. And when they have that, they make a good decision. You know what? You sleep good at night. They will see how great you are, not at that moment, because nobody wants to hear the truth sometimes, right then and there. But when you reflect back, they're going to say, thank you so much for being who you are and telling me the truth at that time.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think that's a wrap on episode 1 of the podcast. We're still work in progress with regards to the name, but I think we did a pretty good job of getting some insight into who you are, where you come from, and why anybody should care about what you have to say. So.
Well, thank you, and we want to bring you the facts, the real truth out there in anything that we talk about. No filter. We want you to know what's happening out there so you can take that information and run and make it work for you. Until next time, guys.